Welcome to one of my favorite cities in Peru, Arequipa. And why is that? Well, let's leave aside the beauty of this city's distinctive architecture, its colorful streets, great restaurants, and illustrious history, and go straight to the weather. At an average elevation of 7,700 feet, it's an equatorial sweet spot. Sunny, spring-like, and cool, with temperatures around 72 degrees Fahrenheit most of the year, and with lots of nature all around. That includes Colca Canyon, one of the deepest canyons on Earth, and 4 nearby snow-covered volcanoes towering as high as 20,000 feet. So there's a lot to like about Arequipa. If you're traveling across a broad swath of Peru, as I am, there's another excellent reason to carve out some time in this beautiful city. That's because it's a super place to begin acclimating to the higher altitudes of the high Andes. Within the city limits here, the altitude varies from about 6,500 to nearly 9,000 feet. And if you're traveling by bus onto Cusco, the gradual ascent to the altiplano starts within an hour or so to the east as you leave Arequipa. Problem is, once you're here, you don't really want to leave. Arequipa and the region that it represents has always marched to its own drummer with respect to resisting overt control by the central government in Lima. There's long been a tension there that's continued even until recent years, with parleys back and forth over policy decisions affecting this region. But that's nothing new, because from its founding in the 1500s by Spaniards, this part of the viceroyalty of Peru was its own sort of unique place, founded largely by Basques and people from Catalonia, who themselves have a long, rich history of opposition to central rule in Spain. Arequipa is often called the White City because most all of the colonial buildings here are constructed from volcanic ashlar stone taken from nearby quarries. That same stone nearer to the surface is naturally pinkish because of increased oxidation. So whenever you see a building or a portion of a building with pink stone, you know that the stone has come from layers nearer the surface. The main plaza here, as in all Peruvian towns and cities, is referred to as the Plaza de Armas, as opposed to the Zócalo, for example, if you're thinking of Mexico. And of course, like all great plazas in beautiful Latin American cities, it's filled with people of all kinds and of children, and a considerable amount of entrepreneurship, of course. Just a great place to hang out and to stroll. There are two competing interesting legends about how Arequipa got its name. One school of thought is that it comes from the Aymara language, meaning sound trumpet. But I prefer the Inca/Quechua story, which goes back to the Inca days, when it is said that soldiers, warriors, Inca warriors, coming home from the southern front, asked their leader if they could remain here. And the official response was given, yes, stay, which in Quechua means Arequipa. I'm in the covered patio of an old colonial building here that's now a beautiful handicrafts market. It's a great place to find arts and crafts or just to grab a bite to eat. This building, before the great earthquake of 1868, was a girls' orphanage. And after the earthquake, it became a men's prison, which I think explains why the stores along the edges of this patio, which are all identical with arched entryways and identical in size, are rather on the small side, because those stores were at one time prison cells. I stopped in here yesterday and grabbed a bite of queso helado, or cheese ice cream, and I think subliminally that's why I've come back today. I want some more of it. There's a hint of cheese flavor in there, of course cinnamon sprinkled on top, but it's not overly sweet. It's just the way ice cream should be. And I wish I could show you me eating it, but only got two hands here. I'm here in the plaza of the beautiful church and convent of San Francisco, built in the mid-1600s with an addition the following century. It's representative of a kind of Baroque, modified Baroque style of architecture that's fairly common here, but there are so many styles of architecture in Arequipa, probably because there are at least 10 religious orders represented here in the founding of Arequipa, and they each sort of went their own way in what they did. In the case of the San Francisco church, you will notice what appear to be beautiful extruded columns that appear to be decorative, but in reality they are simply buttresses built with the intent of literally holding the walls together in the event of an earthquake. Arequipa is one of the best places in the world to climb volcanoes, being surrounded by 4 of them. The 2 most prominent that you see from the city are Chanchani at just under 20,000 feet and El Misti at just over 19,000 feet. Chanchani, which is dormant, is really a volcano group with several craters. El Misti, however, is active. It blows off steam, and scientists say it's a disaster waiting to happen. That's because thousands of poor people, many of them from the Puno region, have settled here on the outskirts of the city too close to the volcano. For now, most Arequipans seem to take it all in stride, maybe because they're used to seeing El Misti blow off steam every morning. In fact, if you get up early enough, when the sun is just right, you can see the plumes of gas trickling over the edge of the volcano. That kind of complacency is perhaps better understood if you consider the frequency with which gases pour out of the top of El Misti. In fact, there's an expression here that when you get up in the morning and see the fumes, it's just Misty having a morning smoke. If you happen to be, as I am, a fan of the great novelist and essayist Mario Vargas Llosa, you know that the Nobel laureate is a son of Arequipa. And I'm in the library established in his honor. For years, Vargas Llosa has been gradually emptying the vast collection of his books into this library from his personal collections in Lima, Paris, and Madrid, the latter being his primary home these days. A few years ago, during one of his regular visits here, he explained that the reason he's donating the books gradually is that he's just afraid to part with all of them. I'm here at the Catholic University of Santa Maria's museum about a block from the main plaza, where one of the most unusual and significant archaeological discoveries of the 1990s is kept. I'm talking about the ice maiden Juanita, also called the Lady of Ambato. She's a perfectly preserved 12 to 15-year-old girl sacrificed by the Incas between 1440 and 1480. She was found in 1995 by American anthropologist Johann Reinhardt and his Peruvian climbing partner on Mount Ambato at an altitude of more than 20,000 feet. Her body, hair, clothing, even her blood, preserved by the perpetual sub-freezing temperatures. Juanita and 3 other so-called Inca mummies are kept in special glass freezers here under super cold temperatures. But photography is strictly forbidden inside, so I can only tell you that if you come to Arequipa, the museum is something you may not want to miss. I'm here in Arequipa's oldest neighborhood, San Lázaro, which by all rights should probably be the center of Arequipa, except that when the Spaniards came and settled this place in 1540, there was a characteristic about this neighborhood that didn't suit them. That is, there was an existing indigenous village here, and the street plan was laid out with streets that were not perpendicular but slanted off in different directions. And so it was decided that Arequipa's new center would be to the east of here. But as a result, you have a very charming neighborhood with these crooked streets, if you will, with walls adorned with potted plants, and of course cobble streets. Behind the cathedral, it's full of shops and mostly cafes. And I must say, you could be forgiven if you thought you were in the Andalusia region of Spain, because that's exactly how this street appears, and for a good reason. Because the climate is so similar, the Spaniards who came here early on tried to replicate Andalusia, and they did a very good job of it with these, of course, cobble streets, but just the candelabra street lights, the decorations, the potted plants on the walls, everything about it just reeks the south of Spain, and yet it's the south of Peru.
At night, Arequipa's streets come alive.
Tu cuerpo resplandeciente, mostrando que tu amor abriga. Así me dulce amada, así me dulce vida, como el otoño de tus pies postrados, aquí un alá que por ti se inspira.
Un suspiro.
And on the Plaza de Armas, troubadours carry on their nightly tradition of storytelling and song.
Y cuando al fin llega la noche, porque está oscureciendo, tu cara tímida se esconde, como estelas que pasarán. Mi boca menciona tu nombre, y es así, 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 como te quiero. Y es que es así, 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 como te veo. Y es que es así, 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 como te quiero. Y es que es así, así,